The familiar cacophony of Nexus Station's central plaza washed over me as I settled into my observation post. My name is Crix 9, Intelligence Officer of the Vaxian Diplomatic Corps, and I was on my standard rotation monitoring the human delegation. Year 2475 by their calendar. And humans had been granted provisional membership to the Galactic Council, a decision I found both premature and potentially dangerous, despite their apparent harmlessness. I activated my third brain to process the sensory data, while my primary consciousness focused on the small group of humans seated at an outdoor cafe. My secondary brain, meanwhile, maintained vigilance over the rest of the plaza. The efficiency of triplicate thought processing was yet another reminder of Vaxian superiority. The humans were sharing a meal, laughing over protein paste tubes like they were some exotic delicacy. There were 4 of them. Maya Singh, a young female perhaps 20 standard years old, with smooth brown skin and dark hair pulled into a tight configuration. Dr. Rajan Patel, her elderly grandfather, a renowned physicist whose thin frame and silver hair suggested fragility even by human standards. Tom Everett, a muscular male with pale skin who seemed to be Maya's friend, or perhaps potential mate. And Captain Elena Vasquez, the human intelligence liaison to the station's security forces. My intelligence briefing had marked these 4 as low-threat individuals with potential diplomatic value. The humans' recent admission to the Council was still controversial, given their species' limited strength, durability, and technological development. Many races viewed them as an annoying curiosity at best, a waste of a council seat at worst. I'd been observing humans for 3 standard cycles now, and I'd come to find them amusing. They compensated for their physical shortcomings with excessive optimism and elaborate social rituals. They smiled too much, laughed too loudly, and maintained the delusion that they were equals among the stars. The Vaxian government considered them potentially useful trading partners, but ultimately inconsequential to the greater galactic balance of power. As I watched, Maya Singh gestured animatedly while telling some story, her grandfather nodding with that peculiar human expression of pride. Captain Vasquez maintained a more reserved demeanor, as befitted her military position, while Tom Everett seemed most interested in consuming his food, a typical human gathering, inefficient, emotional, and ultimately harmless. The central plaza bustled around them with representatives of at least 30 different species. Towering Morvigians negotiated mineral rights with diminutive Plex traders. A cluster of Hyven drones communicated via pheromones near the environmental controls. 2 Trishalian diplomats floated silently toward the administrative levels. And, of course, the station's peacekeepers, primarily Gordanian warriors under council mandate, maintained order with their imposing presence. One such peacekeeper, Sergeant Vorth, caught my attention as he strode purposefully across the plaza. Standing nearly 8 feet tall with reptilian features and the characteristic bone ridge of high-caste Gordanians. Vorth had a reputation for effectiveness and brutality in equal measure. His subordinate, Lieutenant Grex, followed several paces behind, force pike at the ready. Vorth was heading directly toward the human table. Interesting. I adjusted my position slightly and enhanced my audio receptors. This might actually provide some worthwhile intelligence. Human female. Vorth's voice boomed across the suddenly quieter plaza. You will stand when addressing a station peacekeeper. Maya Singh looked up, seeming more confused than intimidated. I'm sorry. I wasn't addressing you at all. We're just having lunch. The surrounding conversations dimmed as various species turned to observe the confrontation. Public altercations were rare on Nexus Station, particularly those involving peacekeepers. Your laughter disrespects the dignity of this station, Vorth continued, looming over their table. I have been observing your group's disruptive behavior. Captain Vasquez straightened. Sergeant, I assure you we're within all noise regulations for public spaces. If there's been a misunderstanding— Silence, Vorth cut her off. I address the young one who shows no proper deference. Maya Singh stood slowly, maintaining eye contact with the Gordanian, a breach of their cultural etiquette. I apologize if our conversation disturbed you. Sergeant, we'll try to keep it down. What happened next was unexpected. Vorth's arm swung in a wide arc, his massive, scaled hand connecting with Maya's face in a backhanded slap that should have sent her small human frame flying. The crack echoed across the plaza, followed by gasps from multiple species. But Maya barely moved. Her head turned slightly with the impact, a small trickle of red blood appearing at the corner of her mouth. But she remained standing. She simply wiped the blood away with her thumb, looked at it with mild interest, and then back at Vorth. You seem stressed. Sergeant, have you considered using the station's recreational facilities? I hear the gym on level 3 has excellent equipment. I immediately activated my recording implants. This was precisely the type of incident my superiors would want documented. Another example of human weakness and the folly of their council membership. The girl would likely be severely injured, creating a diplomatic incident that could be leveraged to our advantage. Vorth's scales darkened with anger, a physiological reaction indicating heightened aggression. You dare mock a station peacekeeper? Perhaps humans require a physical reminder of their place in the Galactic Order. With practiced efficiency, Vorth unholstered his force pike and extended it to its full length, the energy tip humming with enough power to incapacitate most species instantly. Maya still didn't move. She didn't call for help or show fear. Instead, she simply said, "That would be a mistake." Sergeant. Laughter rippled through the watching crowd. The scene had attracted quite an audience now, at least 60 individuals from various species, all expecting to see human fragility demonstrated. I noticed several recording devices activated. This would likely become popular entertainment across multiple systems. Stand aside. Maya. It was Dr. Patel who spoke now, rising slowly from his chair. The elderly human placed himself between his granddaughter and the armed peacekeeper, a gesture as futile as it was surprising. With respect, Sergeant, Dr. Patel said, his voice steady despite his apparent frailty. I am a pacifist who has served the Council for 40 years. Whatever offense my granddaughter has caused, I'm certain we can resolve this without violence. Vorth sneered, displaying rows of serrated teeth. The old one offers himself first. Very well. He thrust the force pike toward Dr. Patel's chest. But what happened next defied all my intelligence briefings on human capabilities. Dr. Patel's hand moved with startling speed, catching the shaft of the force pike just below its energy tip. In one fluid motion, he twisted the weapon, using Vorth's own momentum to pull the Gordanian off balance. As Vorth stumbled forward, Dr. Patel's other hand struck precisely at the junction between Vorth's arm and shoulder carapace. A horrible cracking sound followed, and Vorth's grip on the force pike failed completely. Dr. Patel now held the weapon, while Vorth clutched his arm, his scales shifting to a pale yellow, indicating pain and shock. Pressure point manipulation, Dr. Patel explained calmly, as if giving an academic lecture. Your species has 17 vulnerable junctions where your exoskeleton segments connect. That was number 4, relatively harmless but quite painful. I would recommend against further aggression. Sergeant. The plaza had gone completely silent. Even I found myself momentarily stunned. According to all Vaxian intelligence, Humans possessed approximately 1/5 the strength of a Gordanian peacekeeper. Yet this elderly scientist had just disarmed one of the station's elite warriors with apparent ease. Lieutenant Grex reacted quickly, raising his own weapon and aiming it at Dr. Patel. "Release the force pike and surrender. Human, or I will fire." Captain Vasquez stood now, her voice carrying the unmistakable tone of authority. "Lieutenant, I remind you that under Section 12 of the Galactic Treaty, unprovoked assault against Council member species constitutes a Class 2 violation. Your sergeant has already committed one such violation. I suggest you lower your weapon and allow station security to conduct a proper investigation." Murmurs spread through the crowd. The humans weren't reacting with fear or panic. They were citing regulation and demanding proper procedure. Even more surprising, they appeared physically capable of enforcing their demands. Vorth had recovered enough to snarl. "The humans attacked a peacekeeper. Arrest them all. The station's security monitors will show who attacked whom." Tom Everett spoke up for the first time, gesturing toward the surveillance nodes positioned around the plaza. "And there are plenty of witnesses." Several members of the crowd nodded in agreement. The public narrative was shifting. What had begun as entertainment at human expense was transforming into outrage at peacekeeper abuse. Vorth's scales flushed a dangerous red. With his functional arm, he reached for a secondary weapon, a small plasma blade concealed in his utility belt. As Dr. Patel was focused on Lieutenant Grex, Vorth activated the blade and lunged toward the elderly human's exposed back. "Grandfather," Maya called out, but she wasn't warning him. It sounded more like a request for permission. Dr. Patel nodded once, never taking his eyes off Lieutenant Grex. "Minimal force." "Maya." What happened next occurred so quickly that I had to review my recording multiple times to fully comprehend it. Maya Singh moved, not with the awkward gait of a typical human, but with fluid precision that defied my understanding of their physiology. She stepped forward, her right hand striking Vorth's temple with an open palm. Then her left hand jabbed precisely at the base of his skull, followed by a final strike with two stiffened fingers directly between his central eye ridges. 3 strikes, 3 seconds, 3 precisely targeted neurological junctions. Sergeant Vorth, an elite Gordanian warrior with decades of combat experience, collapsed to the floor, his massive body convulsing briefly before going completely still. The plasma blade clattered uselessly beside him. The plaza erupted in chaos. Several species capable of rapid movement simply fled. Others pressed forward for a better view. Security alarms began blaring as the station's automated systems registered the violent incident. Through it all, the 4 humans remained calm. Maya returned to her seat. Dr. Patel carefully deactivated the force pike and placed it on the ground. Captain Vasquez activated her communication device, presumably contacting human diplomatic channels. Tom Everett continued eating his protein paste. "The threading on this tube is defective," he commented casually. "Quality control has really declined since they switched manufacturers." As a Vaxian intelligence officer with 3 brains, I pride myself on rapid adaptation to new information. Yet I found all 3 of my thought processes temporarily aligned in pure astonishment. A squad of station security officers arrived, accompanied by a medical team. The latter immediately attended to Vorth, while the former established a perimeter around the scene. Lieutenant Grex was speaking rapidly into his communicator, his scales now a mottled pattern indicating extreme stress. I noticed that the rest of the peacekeepers were maintaining a conspicuous distance from the human table. Deciding that direct observation would provide the most valuable intelligence, I approached Captain Vasquez. "Station security will want statements from all involved parties," I said, using the pretense of administrative procedure. Vasquez nodded. "Of course, Officer Crix 9. Will cooperate fully." The Gordanian, I found myself asking, is he unconscious but stable? Maya Singh answered, he'll experience a severe headache and temporary paralysis of his secondary motor functions for approximately 12 hours. But there will be no permanent damage. Dr. Patel sighed. I apologize for the public disturbance. I had hoped to avoid such demonstrations during our time on Nexus Station. My curiosity overrode my professional detachment. Your intelligence files describe you as a physicist and pacifist. Dr. Patel, they make no mention of combat training. The elderly human smiled gently. I am indeed both those things. I abhor violence and have devoted my life to scientific advancement. However, pacifism is a philosophical choice, not a tactical disadvantage. Captain Vasquez gestured for me to join them at their table, a surprising invitation given the circumstances. Even more surprisingly, I accepted, taking the seat furthest from Maya Singh. I had just witnessed her incapacitate a Gordanian with 3 precise strikes. Prudence seemed advisable. You seem confused, officer, Vasquez noted. Perhaps we can clarify some misconceptions about humans. That would be informative, I managed to reply, activating additional recording protocols. This conversation would certainly interest my superiors. Every human who leaves Earth undergoes comprehensive defensive training, Vasquez explained. It's been standard procedure since our first extrasolar colonies were established. Those who travel to diplomatic posts receive additional specialized training. Including elderly scientists and young females? I couldn't keep the disbelief from my vocal modulation. Dr. Patel chuckled. Especially scientists. We're considered high-value assets. And as for youth, Maya began her training at age 5, as do most human children with spacefaring potential. But your species is physically inferior to most council races, I pointed out. Your muscle density, bone structure, and metabolic efficiency are all significantly below galactic median standards. Tom Everett finally looked up from his meal. Yeah, we're aware of those reports. We may have contributed to some of those assessments ourselves. You deliberately underrepresented your capabilities. The implications were disturbing on multiple levels. Not exactly, Captain Vasquez said. Humans are indeed less physically powerful than many species. We can't match a Gordanian for raw strength or a Morvigian for endurance. But we've developed techniques that focus on efficiency rather than power, precision rather than force. What you just witnessed, Dr. Patel added, was the practical application of detailed anatomical knowledge. Every council species has been thoroughly studied by our xenobiologists. We know exactly where to strike for maximum effect with minimum energy expenditure. Maya wiped her mouth with a napkin, her demeanor disturbingly casual given what she had just done. Plus, most species underestimate us. That's tactically advantageous. I struggled to integrate this new information with my existing intelligence. Are all humans as combat proficient as you appear to be? Oh no, Dr. Patel said. Maya is exceptional even by our standards. Special aptitude for kinesthetic learning and neurological targeting. She could have pursued a military career, but she preferred xenobiology. Maya shrugged modestly. I like understanding how different species work. It's fascinating. And occasionally practical, Tom added with a grin that displayed too many teeth. The cleaning crew had arrived to remove the still unconscious Sergeant Vorth. Lieutenant Grex and the remaining peacekeepers had retreated to the security office. The plaza was gradually returning to its normal activity, though I noticed the humans' table now had a considerable buffer zone around it. I am required to file a report on this incident, I said, attempting to regain my professional composure. Of course, Captain Vasquez nodded. We'll provide any information you need. though I suspect your report might contradict some of your previous assessments of human capabilities." She was right, and therein lay my dilemma. My duty as an intelligence officer was to provide accurate information to my government. Yet transmitting the truth of what I'd witnessed would undermine years of vaccine policy based on the assumption of human weakness. "Perhaps," Dr. Patel suggested gently. "Your people and mine have more to learn about each other. Misconceptions can be dangerous, but they can also be corrected through honest dialogue. I found myself in the unusual position of reassessing my fundamental assumptions. If humans had concealed their defensive capabilities so effectively, what else might they be hiding? Was their technological development truly as limited as we believed? Were their diplomatic overtures as ingenuous as they seemed? Your demonstration today will alter how many species perceive humans," I noted. "Was that intentional?" "Not particularly," Captain Vasquez replied. "We prefer to avoid such incidents, but neither do we accept abuse or assault. We're peaceful by choice, not by necessity." Tom Everett gathered their empty protein paste tubes. "The real question, Officer Crix 9, is what your report will say. Will you tell your superiors what you actually saw, or what they expect to hear?" It was a profound question that resonated through all three of my brains. My primary consciousness considered the political implications. My secondary brain calculated the statistical improbability of what I'd witnessed. And my tertiary awareness focused on the calm, confident expressions of the four humans before me. I will report that a regrettable incident occurred involving a station peacekeeper and human diplomatic personnel, I said carefully. The matter was resolved without serious injury and is being investigated by station security. Further assessment of human capabilities may be warranted based on their response to provocation. Captain Vasquez nodded appreciatively. Accurate without being alarmist. Wise choice. "We're scheduled for a cultural exchange with the Trishalian delegation this afternoon," Dr. Patel said, checking his timepiece. "Perhaps we should proceed there now, before station security requires our formal statements." The four humans rose in unison. Dr. Patel extended his hand toward me, a human greeting gesture that I had previously found unhygienic, but now regarded with new wariness. "It was enlightening to speak with you, Officer Crix 9, he said. "I hope this leads to better understanding between our peoples." I completed the ritual handshake, noting the controlled strength in the elderly human's grip. "As do I, Dr. Patel." They departed with the same casual demeanor they had displayed throughout the incident, leaving me alone at the table, surrounded by the lingering evidence of violence and revelation. My report that cycle was concise and factual. My personal addendum, encrypted for the highest levels of vaccine intelligence, was more candid. Human capability assessments require immediate revision. Current diplomatic and military strategies based on presumed human weakness are dangerously flawed. Recommend comprehensive reevaluation of all human intelligence data and enhancement of cultural exchange programs to better understand their true potential and intentions. I knew my superiors might dismiss my concerns as exaggeration or anomaly. They might question my observational objectivity or even my loyalty. But I had witnessed firsthand what humans were capable of when provoked, and I could not in good conscience perpetuate a dangerous misconception. As I completed my transmission, I noticed a small group of Trishalian diplomats gathering anxiously near the corridor that the humans had taken. Their floating forms displayed the rippling pattern that indicated extreme agitation. Apparently, news traveled quickly on Nexus Station. The humans' cultural exchange with the Trishalians promised to be unusually tense. I decided that my next duty rotation would be particularly informative. After all, intelligence gathering was my primary function, and I had just discovered how woefully incomplete our intelligence on humans truly was. The galaxy, I suspected, was about to become a much more complicated place. 2 standard cycles later, I found myself once again observing the human delegation, though from a considerably greater distance than before. The incident with Sergeant Vorth had created ripples throughout Nexus Station's political ecosystem. The Gordanian peacekeeping contingent had filed a formal protest, claiming their officer had been maliciously assaulted while performing his duties. Station Security's investigation, however, supported by numerous witness testimonies and surveillance recordings, had concluded that the humans had acted in legitimate self-defense after being physically attacked. The most interesting development, from an intelligence perspective, was how quickly the various delegations had adjusted their approach to human interactions. Species that had previously displayed dismissive or condescending attitudes now maintained careful formality. Those that had been neutral became overtly friendly, and those already allied with humans seemed smugly vindicated, as if they had known the truth all along. Perhaps some had. I had received no direct response to my encrypted addendum from Vaxian High Command, not entirely unexpected, given transmission delays and the bureaucratic layers of intelligence processing. My standard reports continued, documenting the humans' movements, meetings, and public activities. But I found myself including more nuanced observations about their behavioral patterns and diplomatic strategies. Today, the human delegation was meeting with representatives from 7 different species in what they called a cultural showcase. Dr. Patel was demonstrating traditional Earth music using an archaic stringed instrument that produced surprisingly complex harmonics. Maya Singh was conducting what appeared to be a cooking demonstration, transforming standard protein paste into something that attracted a line of curious aliens eager to sample the result. Tom Everett was teaching a simplified version of a human physical competition called basketball, adapted for various physiologies. And Captain Vasquez was engaged in what humans called informal diplomacy, essentially, sharing intoxicating beverages while discussing trade possibilities. The entire affair struck me as quintessentially human, simultaneously frivolous and strategic, combining sensory pleasure with calculated relationship building. What I now understood, however, was that beneath the apparent openness lay layers of capability and calculation that most species, including my own, had fundamentally misjudged. I was so absorbed in my analysis that I initially failed to notice Captain Vasquez approaching my observation position. "Officer Crix 9, she greeted me, holding 2 containers of liquid. "You seem to be working, rather than enjoying the festivities. Perhaps a refreshment would be welcome." I accepted the offered beverage cautiously, my secondary brain automatically analyzing its likely composition for toxins or mind-altering substances. "Thank you. Captain, your cultural demonstration appears successful. Humans have always believed that breaking bread together, or in this case, sharing protein restructured into approximate bread, is the foundation of peaceful relations." She sipped her drink, maintaining direct eye contact, a human conversational norm that many species found uncomfortable. "Your reports have been fair since the incident. We appreciate that." I stiffened slightly. "My reports are classified Vaxian intelligence material." "Of course they are," she agreed smoothly. "Just as our reports on you are classified human intelligence material. Yet here we are, 2 professionals who understand that absolute secrecy is an ideal rather than a reality." "What do you want, Captain Vasquez?" I asked directly, employing the human preference for conversational efficiency. "A more accurate understanding between our species," she replied. The incident with Sergeant Vorth was unfortunate, but perhaps necessary. Too many assumptions had calcified into policy. Sometimes assumptions need to be forcefully corrected. Are you suggesting it was a deliberate demonstration? The implications were concerning. Not at all. Vorth's actions were his own, and our response was proportionate self-defense. But the outcome has created an opportunity for more honest dialogue. She gestured toward the gathering. Look around you, officer. 7 species that previously treated humans as curiosities, or pets, are now engaging as equals. Fear isn't our goal, but respect is necessary for meaningful cooperation. I activated my tertiary brain to scan the interactions she indicated while maintaining our conversation. She was right. The dynamics had shifted noticeably. The Morvigian ambassador, who had previously referred to humans as amusing primitives in private communications, was now listening intently to Dr. Patel's explanation of musical mathematics. A Hyven drone cluster was mimicking the basketball movements with surprising enthusiasm. Even the normally aloof Plex traders were sampling Maya's culinary creations with their sensory appendages fully extended, a sign of trust and openness. Humans are a contradictory species, I observed. You present yourselves as peaceful explorers and traders, yet you possess combat capabilities you conceal until provoked. You claim to seek friendship while practicing deception. Is it deception to keep private strengths private? Vasquez countered. Every species has capabilities they don't advertise. The Vaxian's triple-brain cognitive processing, for instance. Your people downplay its military applications in official documentation. I couldn't refute her point. Vaxian intelligence deliberately obscured certain aspects of our neurological advantages. The difference, she continued, is that humans were underestimated to a degree that became dangerous, both to us and to those who might misjudge us. What happened with Sergeant Vorth could have been much worse. Maya could have killed him, I acknowledged. Easily. Vasquez nodded. But that would have violated our principles and damaged our diplomatic position. Minimal force to neutralize the threat was the appropriate response. That's the essence of human philosophy that most species misunderstand. We aren't pacifists because we're weak. We're peaceable because we understand the full cost of violence. The conversation was interrupted by a commotion near the entrance to the gathering space. Lieutenant Grex had arrived with 4 Gordanian peacekeepers. Their posture wasn't overtly aggressive, but neither was it the neutral stance expected of station security personnel. It seems the Gordanians haven't fully processed their recent lesson, Vasquez murmured, her body language shifting subtly into what I now recognized as combat readiness. This could escalate dangerously, I warned. Only if they choose that path. She activated her communication device. Vasquez to team. We have visitors at the main entrance. Maintain normal activities, but implement Protocol Theta. I didn't recognize the protocol designation, but its effect was immediately apparent. Without any obvious signal, the other 3 humans adjusted their positions to create clear sightlines to the Gordanian group. Their expressions and activities remained unchanged, but I detected the same subtle shift toward readiness that Vasquez had displayed. Most remarkably, the transitions were so fluid that none of the other species at the gathering appeared to notice the tactical repositioning. Lieutenant Grex approached our position, his scales displaying the bluish tint of formal duty rather than the red of aggression. Captain Vasquez, Officer Crix 9. He acknowledged us both with a curt nod. I am here to deliver an official communication. Vasquez maintained a relaxed posture. Of course, Lieutenant. Would you care for refreshment first? That will not be necessary. Grex produced a data tablet. The Gordanian Peacekeeping Authority has completed its internal review of the incident involving Sergeant Vorth. Our findings differ from those of station security. That's not unexpected, Vasquez replied evenly. Different perspectives often yield different conclusions. Indeed. Grex's tone was stiff. However, we have determined that further conflict would not serve the greater mission of Nexus Station. Therefore, the Authority has decided to consider the matter closed, provided there are no further incidents. I detected the barely concealed threat beneath the diplomatic phrasing. Vasquez clearly did as well, but her response betrayed no concern. The human delegation shares your commitment to station harmony. Lieutenant, we consider the matter resolved and look forward to productive cooperation with the Peacekeeping Authority. Grex's scales flickered briefly, a sign of surprise or possibly disappointment at the lack of resistance. Very well. I will convey your response to my superiors. He paused, then added, Sergeant Vorth has been reassigned to the outer perimeter stations. He will not return to Central Plaza duty. A sensible reassignment. Vasquez nodded. Please extend our best wishes for his recovery and future endeavors. After Grex departed with his escort, I turned to Vasquez. That was not the response I anticipated from the Gordanian Authority. They rarely concede any ground in disciplinary matters. Vasquez's expression revealed a hint of satisfaction. Let's just say their internal review included some persuasive evidence that wasn't part of the public record. You had additional leverage, I deduced. Intelligence officers like us always maintain certain contingencies. Officer Crix 9. I'm sure you understand. I did, though I found myself increasingly discomforted by how thoroughly I had underestimated human strategic thinking. They operated on multiple levels simultaneously: the open cultural exchange, the demonstrated combat capability, and now the implied intelligence operations beneath the surface. Your species continues to surprise me, Captain Vasquez. Good, she replied candidly. The day we become predictable is the day we become vulnerable. Humanity learned that lesson the hard way during our early expansion period. She gestured toward Maya Singh, who was now teaching a group of diverse aliens how to shape protein paste into complex geometric forms. Maya's grandmother was killed during the Proxima incident, the unprovoked attack on our colony that nearly ended our spacefaring ambitions. Maya's defensive capabilities aren't just training. They're a family legacy born from existential necessity. I hadn't known this detail about Maya's background. It added another dimension to my understanding of human motivation. And Dr. Patel? His pacifism seems genuine, yet his combat skills are undeniable. Dr. Patel believes that true peace requires the strength to defend it, Vasquez explained. He's dedicated his life to advancing human knowledge, while ensuring that knowledge is protected. The Gordanians aren't the first to mistake his philosophical restraint for weakness. The gathering was beginning to disperse, the various delegations departing with expressions of appreciation and, notably, increased respect. Dr. Patel was presenting his stringed instrument as a gift to the Morvigian ambassador, a gesture of significant cultural meaning among humans. Your cultural exchange appears to have accomplished its objectives, I observed. Some of them, Vasquez agreed. Building genuine understanding takes time and multiple approaches. Today was just one small step. As she prepared to rejoin her team, Vasquez fixed me with a direct gaze. Your next report to your superiors will shape Vaxian policy toward humans for years to come. I hope it reflects what you've actually observed, rather than what's politically expedient. My duty is to provide accurate intelligence, I replied automatically. As is mine, she countered. The difference is that humans have learned that the most accurate intelligence acknowledges the limits of our understanding. There's always more to learn about any species. Officer Crix 9, including your own. With that cryptic statement, she departed, leaving me to contemplate the implications of everything I had witnessed since the incident with Sergeant Vorth. My next report would indeed be consequential. The question was whether Vaxian High Command was prepared to accept a fundamental reassessment of human capabilities and intentions. Existing policies were built on assumptions that had been dramatically disproven. Yet bureaucratic momentum often resisted radical change. As I observed the 4 humans gathering their equipment and thanking the remaining attendees, I made my decision. My report would be comprehensive, detailed, and unequivocal. I would document not only what I had witnessed, but what I had come to understand about human strategy and capability. I would recommend a complete reevaluation of our diplomatic, intelligence, and, if necessary, military approaches to human interaction. The risks were significant, to my career, certainly, but potentially to galactic stability if other species reacted with fear rather than respect to the new reality of human potential. Yet the greater risk lay in perpetuating dangerous misconceptions that could lead to catastrophic miscalculation. Dr. Patel caught my eye across the room and offered a slight nod of acknowledgement. I found myself returning the gesture before I'd consciously decided to do so. There was wisdom in the elderly human's eyes, the kind that transcended species differences and spoke to universal truths about power, restraint, and the complex dance of interspecies relations. Perhaps, I reflected, activating all 3 of my brains to begin composing my report. The humans had been the most intelligent species in the room all along, not because of raw cognitive capacity, but because they understood something fundamental that many of us had forgotten. True strength lies not in demonstrating power, but in knowing precisely when and how to use it. The galaxy was indeed becoming more complicated, but with complexity came opportunity for those prepared to adapt to changing realities. The Vaxian Diplomatic Corps would need to evolve its approach, and that evolution would begin with my next transmission. 3 standard days after filing my comprehensive report, I received an encrypted directive from Vaxian High Command that confirmed my worst fears. They refused to accept my reassessment of human capabilities. The message questioned my objectivity, suggested I might have been influenced by human manipulation techniques, and ordered me to revert to standard monitoring protocols with no deviation. In my 60 cycles of intelligence service, I had never directly contravened a superior's order. Yet as I observed the human delegation entering the central plaza for what would be their final day on Nexus Station before departing for the Council homeworld, I made a decision that would irrevocably alter my career and potentially the future of Vaxian human relations. I approached their table openly, abandoning all pretense of covert observation. Officer Crix 9, Dr. Patel greeted me warmly. Please, join us for our farewell meal. Thank you, Dr. Patel, I replied, taking the offered seat. I have received a response from my government regarding my report on recent events. Captain Vasquez's expression revealed nothing, but her posture shifted slightly. And? They have rejected my assessment and instructed me to maintain previous intelligence protocols regarding human capabilities. Maya Singh raised an eyebrow. That seems counterproductive. It is dangerously misguided, I stated bluntly, which is why I am now informing you directly. My government refuses to acknowledge the tactical and strategic implications of what occurred here. They prefer comfortable misconceptions to uncomfortable truths. Tom Everett whistled softly, a human expression of surprise. That's quite a professional risk you're taking. Officer, the greater risk would be allowing a potentially catastrophic misunderstanding to persist. I replied. I have witnessed firsthand what humans are capable of when provoked. I have also observed your restraint and commitment to peaceful cooperation when treated with respect. Both aspects must be properly understood for stable relations to develop. Dr. Patel studied me thoughtfully. What do you propose, Officer Crix 9? I will continue to file the reports my superiors expect, maintaining the fiction that humans remain as we have always categorized them. Simultaneously, I will provide you with direct intelligence regarding Vaxian perceptions and policies concerning humans. This arrangement would benefit both our species by preventing dangerous miscalculations. You're proposing to become a double agent, Captain Vasquez stated plainly. I am proposing to serve the actual best interests of my people rather than their perceived interests. I clarified. Sometimes loyalty requires disobedience when those in authority are dangerously misinformed. The four humans exchanged glances, communicating in that peculiar nonverbal way they often employed among themselves. Why should we trust this offer? Maya Singh asked directly. This could be an elaborate intelligence operation with you as the willing bait. It was a fair question that demonstrated human strategic thinking. You shouldn't trust me immediately, I acknowledged, but I will provide verifiable intelligence as a demonstration of my sincerity. Beginning with this, the Vaxian Diplomatic Corps has been tasked with disrupting human integration into full council membership. 3 operations are already in progress, targeting your delegation's journey to the council homeworld. That captured their full attention. Captain Vasquez leaned forward. What kind of operations? The first is a standard diplomatic maneuver, formal objections based on alleged human violations of cultural protocols. The second involves manufactured evidence of human technological espionage at multiple research facilities. The third... I hesitated, my 3 brains conflicting over the ethical implications of full disclosure. The third, Dr. Patel prompted gently. The third is a staged attack on a Vaxian diplomatic vessel that will be blamed on human separatists. The incident is scheduled to occur during your transit to the council homeworld and is designed to trigger emergency security protocols that would suspend your delegation's council access. Tom Everett's expression darkened. That goes beyond diplomatic maneuvering into direct sabotage. Hence my decision to inform you. I confirmed. No Vaxians will actually be harmed in the operation. The vessel's crew are all intelligence operatives aware of the deception, but the political damage to human standing would be severe and long-lasting. Captain Vasquez activated her secure communication device. I need to alert our security team immediately. We depart in 6 hours. You now have a choice, I told them. You can expose this plot and directly confront Vaxian leadership with the evidence I've provided. Or you can take more subtle countermeasures that prevent the operations while preserving the appearance that your intelligence sources remain independent of Vaxian defection. The latter would allow you to continue providing information, Dr. Patel observed. Precisely. If my superiors discover my action today, my usefulness ends. If they believe their operations failed through human competence rather than Vaxian betrayal, I remain positioned to prevent future miscalculations. Maya Singh studied me with those unnervingly perceptive eyes. What made you decide that humans are worth this risk? Officer Crix 9? 3 days ago, we were just another species to monitor. The question activated all 3 of my brains simultaneously, searching for the most accurate answer. When I witnessed you neutralize Sergeant Vorth with such precise restraint, I recognized something my people have forgotten. Power without wisdom is merely brute force. But power guided by principle is civilization itself. Humans possess both significant capability and remarkable restraint. That combination makes you not merely interesting, but essential to galactic stability. My answer seemed to satisfy her as she nodded slowly. Well, Captain Vasquez said, rising from her seat. It appears our departure preparations just became considerably more complex. Officer Crix 9, I believe we will accept your assistance under the terms you've proposed. A moment. Elena, Dr. Patel interjected. Officer Crix 9 deserves to understand the full implications of this arrangement. He turned to me. If you do this, if you provide us with intelligence contrary to your government's directives, there may come a point when you cannot return to your former life. Are you prepared for that possibility? The question struck at the core of my identity as a Vaxian intelligence officer. For 60 cycles, I had served my people faithfully, believing that my work strengthened our position in the complex galactic community. Now I was contemplating an action that many would view as treasonous, regardless of my intentions. I believe, I said after careful consideration, that serving the actual welfare of my people sometimes requires defying their misconceptions. If that eventually necessitates exile from Vaxian society, then I accept that consequence. Dr. Patel extended his hand, that human gesture that had once seemed so foreign, but now carried profound meaning. Then we welcome your wisdom and courage, Officer Crix 9. As I completed the handshake, Tom Everett added, You know, for a three-brained intelligence officer, you're surprisingly decent. Tom, Maya scolded, though her expression suggested amusement rather than genuine disapproval. What, it's a compliment. Captain Vasquez was already coordinating with her security team, preparing countermeasures for the operations I had revealed. Dr. Patel and I established secure communication protocols that would allow me to transmit intelligence without compromising my position. Maya Singh provided me with a seemingly ordinary data storage device that contained sophisticated encryption technology disguised as standard Vaxian software. When our meeting concluded, the 4 humans departed to complete their preparations for departure. I returned to my assigned observation post, outwardly resuming my regular duties, while inwardly navigating the most profound, philosophical reorientation of my life. My official report, that cycle, described human activities in the precise terms my superiors expected, detailing movements, meetings, and behaviors without any of the insights I had developed. I documented their departure preparations with clinical detachment, noting that they appeared unaware of any security concerns beyond standard travel protocols. Meanwhile, through the encrypted channel Maya had provided, I transmitted detailed operational parameters of the planned Vaxian disruptions, timing, personnel, access codes, and contingency protocols. Captain Vasquez's acknowledgement was terse, but appreciative. As I observed their ship depart Nexus Station 6 hours later, I experienced an emotion that my triple-brain architecture struggled to categorize. It was not quite pride, not exactly hope, but perhaps something uniquely human. The satisfaction of choosing principle over protocol, wisdom over obedience. The humans would neutralize the Vaxian operations without exposing my role. They would advance toward full council membership with a clearer understanding of the opposition they faced, and I would continue my work, outwardly loyal to my government's directives, while serving a deeper loyalty to the actual welfare of all species. In the central plaza, where Sergeant Vorth had once made his fatal miscalculation, I activated my tertiary brain to compose my first unofficial intelligence assessment for human eyes only. Human delegation demonstrates exceptional adaptive capability and strategic foresight. Recommend acceleration of cultural exchange programs to build genuine understanding rather than superficial cooperation. Warning: multiple species, besides Vaxians, continue to underestimate human potential. Probability of future confrontations high. Recommendation: maintain current balanced approach of demonstrated capability and principled restraint. As I transmitted the encrypted message to the departing human vessel, I reflected on Dr. Patel's words about pacifism being a philosophical choice rather than a tactical disadvantage. Perhaps, in my own way, I was becoming something of a pacifist myself, not through weakness or fear, but through the recognition that true strength lies in preventing conflicts rather than winning them. The galaxy was indeed becoming more complicated, but for the first time in my long career, I felt I was helping to shape that complexity toward wisdom rather than merely documenting it for exploitation. It was, I decided, activating all three of my brains to process the novel sensation. Remarkably satisfying.